Well, hello and welcome back to Touring the Mooring. Today we're going to travel up the road and go to Canada.
Okay, gang, here we go. Let's see what happens. Okay, we're down one vehicle in front of us. Here we go. Well, we made it.
Yay!
We only had to stay at the border for 18 minutes. They made us park the coach, made us go inside and wait. We were really nervous because there was about, 6 people sitting in there, and we're like, oh, this is going to take a while. But they called us in. The young girl was very nice. I guess they figured we learned our lesson from 22. She talked to us for a little bit and said goodbye, have a good trip, and off we are. Yay! So, yay. Here we come, Alaska.
Now we're coming to the grain elevators in Canada.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go to a harvest toast at the grain elevators. So, should be interesting. Bye.
Bye, have a good day. Gallons?
That's all I know. And she's like, so she pulls out her calculator because she's got to figure out a liter.
Oh, liters,
right.
Gallons.
Liter, $1.36 a liter or whatever. And
Did he say where we're supposed to park?
in between the two grain elevators, where the little Class C is. Is that a harvest host sign, maybe?
Hey, we're going for a tour at the Canadian Grain Elevator Discovery Center. Come on along.
The ever-changing logistics of grain also caused these to become more irrelevant. And it was built by the Nanton Grain and Lumber Co. And so many of these elevators would have been built from the wood that would have just come directly from the Porcupine Hills behind us here. The farmer could actually drop the grain off and put it into the pit here where it would end up into an elevator bin. They would actually have to do some sampling. So moisture content is the most important sampling method in an elevator. Wet grain can combust and cause fires. So there's a couple different sampling machines here. This one, it really just, you took a sample, weighed the grain, boiled off the water content and reweighed it. Where this one was a little bit more technical. It ran an electrical current through it that would then give you moisture percentage. And then along with the moisture percentage and the temperature of the grain, that would give you a grading of whichever grain from 1 to 12. 1 being the best, 12 being the least. And then they would also test for dockage. So dockage is anything that isn't the grain they want to pay for. So that could be weeds, chaff, even wild oats that were out in the field that wasn't the wheat we wanted. And that would go through sieves like these guys here and separate out, and they would basically calculate the percentage and then apply that to the load.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the truckers would come in and they would be dropping right here. They would be weighed once before, once after dropping, and the big scale here that's in the window is connected to this driveway here.
okay. They dumped into there?
Yes, so this is like a big pit, and there's like a big
Hopper.
diverted slide that
Okay.
slides down to the base of the leg right there.
Yeah.
This elevator leg would have been ran by a engine like this. This here is a Fairbanks Morse Seeds 1.5 horsepower engine that used steam and, well, it was powered by gasoline but drove steam to help run all the different things.
1.5 horsepower?
Correct,
Holy
yes.
crap.
That's what it says.
Here's a great example, let you guys hear it. guys can hear the hissing. So that's what they would kind of hear all day while it ran in the basement of the office. And the offices were more traditionally set up like the wheat pool, where the office is separated by a boardwalk, and then this drive belt would run underneath the boardwalk into the leg base there.
Okay, so they have to hear it.
Yeah. So once the grain is dropped into here,
Can you believe that's 1.5 horsepower?
Yeah.
I mean, today with an engine.
it would lead its way down into the base of the leg here. So this is the actual, this is the elevator. This is what's elevating things. And this leads all the way up to to the very top cupola, where there's a thing called the Gerber, which is basically a tube on an axle that rotates around a bunch of holes in the floor there that lead the chutes to all the various bins.
Okay.
There's 29 bins. Rotate this, it's rotating that tube up in the cupola, so now I have it over bin 21.
So you can tell it
Yeah.
what bin to go into.
And now I have it set to out to track. So if I were to turn this on and there were grain moving up, it would go all the way out to the back where it would fill up a train car. Yeah.
Okay.
And this also leads up to the hopper here, and then it leads up to all the different bins, which are 29 of them.
Storage bins, kind of like little silos in there, or?
Yeah, we're about to go into
Okay.
one, so I'll show you.
The construction of this is just
So
fascinating.
we are currently in a bin, but we are below a bin as well. So they're vertically stacked. Some of them are, they can have different volumes of size. They could be stacked in threes with one larger one and two smaller ones. There's like a small one that carried like 500 bushels that's directly above the hopper scale up station right there. And then there's, most of these ones were like a 3,000 bushel capacity. And a bushel is it's really a measure of volume, and it can be different based off of the type of grain. So it just depends on the grain type, and that'll give you a weight per bushel. You can see all the horizontal structure, and that is so that when these bins are full of grain, it can actually withstand the load of the grain. You'll actually notice this right wall has a bit of some bowing in it, and that would just be from the pressures of the grain sitting in here at one point in time. As well as there's a little bit of a push out where there's an actual crack. And there's also, again, from the grain repeatedly hitting off the walls. And then this is another great example of some of the corner structures here. The grain flowed through them. They began to wither away. So this is exactly one of those ones up there.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
As
And
the-
again,
As the grain fell, it
it,
did that much erosion to the board.
correct. Yeah, you could use grain as sandblast,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah. And to prevent some of that wear and tear, there's some of these diverters along the walls as well. Helps divert the grain. Just they're like got little slits.
Oh, okay.
Kicks it out.
Kicks it out. Yeah.
So when this was operating,
Yeah.
was it every day, 24 hours a day?
Yes. Yeah. So it was always running. I think sometimes they were closed on Sundays, but there was always a train coming in with a quota of certain amount of cars that needed to be filled with a certain amount of. It could have been flax, could have been wheat, could have been red spring wheat or Durham wheat or canola. And it would be the agent, usually one of them, would be juggling between knowing how many cars he had to fill, how much grain was in these bins of which type and style and type, and then calling the farmers, getting on the line with the farmers, being like, oh, I have a quota of 4 train cars of Durham wheat, and I don't have enough. I need you to bring me like 60 bushels more of wheat. And then they bring you that wheat, and then you could get it on the quota. And sometimes his quota would even be messed up because of the town before maybe filled up an extra car or too much and stuff, because there was always a reliance on the town before and after as well to fulfill these quotas for the wheat pool or the wheat pool, or whether it was the Pioneer or there was United Grain Growers, Independent Grain Company. There's a few different.
Those are the purchasers?
They would be like the main, purchasers.
They would utilize it and make bread out of it or do whatever.
No, I guess when I say purchasers, I mean whoever owned, I guess we're talking about these guys.
Okay.
Yes. And then
So they
from
purchase the farmer, and then they would distribute.
correct. And then the purchasers would purchase from the Alberta Wheat Pool or from the Pioneer, and they would sell their grain to those establishments. All the way down to more often the Port of Vancouver or the Great Lakes area for processing. This is basically telling them what is where. It's their little map. See the bushel weight. So some of them had up to I know one of them has 3,000, but roughly 3,000 bushels is what I gather were sitting in most of these bins. A couple smaller bins. These are the ones that lay basically like directly above this hopper.
Okay.
And this is the hopper where everything comes to be weighed before shipping.
Okay.
Yeah. You could pop your head into this bin. This is bin 20, and it's still kind of in its condition or state without doors being opened. And you can actually look to the bottom right, and you'll be able to see the tin chute where the grain actually would flow out of there.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. And that's controlled by the little gate that's right in front of you.
Okay.
Yes. And so all these lower bins have a gate that would open and allow the grain to flow back to the base of the elevator.
Okay.
Then I would have to lift
Then
it
you
up
would do-
and bring it to this hopper to get
So you
weight.
had to double handle everything basically to
Only-
load a car.
Well, triple handle for the lower bins, double handle for the upper bins.
Oh, okay.
Because everything's gravity fed. So
Right.
anything above us right now will, when I open up one of these, it's coming straight to right here. It's
Coming into
stopping,
this.
yes. And then if this normally wouldn't have been here, well, I guess it would have been here, but this would, I could open and I could let the grain flow out, and I would have to fill this 22 times to fill up one train car. And that, once I fill it 22 times, I can fill the base down here a bunch down
Okay.
below this. I will set that cranked
At
to the
same
track.
time, you're sending it out.
No, I'm
Oh,
filling
do it
this
one
out.
at a
I'm
time?
filling this
And then
22
you can-
times. Because in below here, there's like huge pit.
Oh, okay.
So I can put 22 of these below here right
Oh,
now.
wow.
Then I'll go to the front and I'll change that crank to tell it to go out to the track. I'll turn on the elevator and it's going to take that all the way to the train car. Which is basically the same. It's the same with these lower bins. The only thing is that they directly go straight to the elevator. I have to tell them to come to the hopper first with that crank.
Right.
Then I'll do all my weighing, and it'll go down. Then I'll go back to that crank and tell it to go to the back track. And I could actually load a truck too. So there's an option to load a truck. There's an option to reload inside on that side as well in the driveway. So there's like lots of options to dump the grain. But yeah, I'd fill it. This is actually the big, this opens and closes in there, so I'll keep opening and closing it. And so when I'm moving, it's allowing the grain to go down into that pit there. And then all those train cars are left by the CP rail, and more often than not, the agent would have to move those around the rail yard back there, and that would basically be putting this in between the wheel and the track, getting it some leverage so that they can move it across to wherever they need to move it, and then they might jump up and handbrake it and then chalk block it into place.
It's physically moving
Yes, they're physically
the boxcar with
Yes,
that.
correct. And they'll fill it empty and full. They'll move it empty.
They'll move it full?
Yes, because they'll have to move it in line with the rest of the boxcars
Wow.
so they can link up on the secondary line, and then all the locomotive has to do is move into that where the connection between the secondary and main line is, and then they just back in, link up, and then they're going to keep going.
But you
and
can
then,
roll a full car
They-
with
yes.
those little things?
correct.
Holy
Yes.
crap.
They were doing all of these wooden handles open and close a gate that allow the grain to flow out. So imagine the bin above you, and there's a gate. It's closed. It can't flow. And then I guess you heard me do this earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's me opening and allowing grain to flow from bin 22.
Wow.
Yeah. And then another thing I love to share is when we opened up this this doorway, these are some hand forged nails that we actually opened up.
Oh, yeah.
They would have been forged probably here in Nanton at the Nanton Forge. If you've walked up on Main Street at all where Georgie's is, that was one of the forge front offices or something of the local forger here in town. You get a nice view of some of the really big timbers that were used
Yes, I
in
see
these.
that,
And then in the early 2000s.
So was this a family-run operation?
No. Well, yes. Okay. When not family run, where it's like it was owned by the family because it was
Yeah.
owned by Pioneer.
Oh, it was owned
But
by
you would often see 3 generations of the same family
Oh, wow.
running. So these only ran for 100 years when you really think about it. And I do a video that you're more than welcome to watch where John, who's out in Saskatchewan, he says he's worked there for 35 years and his father worked there for that before him. So when you think about it, it's like it was very family, like a family who started here probably relied on their life here throughout the next, and
Sure.
it kind of boosted them to where they are. There's many families that are local to here that this was what their father and their grandfather did.
Huh.
So was this Oh, what was I just going to ask you? How many people?
One
Person?
One person.
Pretty much did this whole thing?
Did everything. And if they needed somebody to clean out the pits below, not like the bins, but the pits where the grain will change over, they might have their son or a local fellow come and clean up.
Kid down there
Yeah.
or something.
If you needed to go up to the very top to do any fixes, this is the counterbalance lift. And they might have been metal or wooden, more likely wooden at the beginning, but this one is metal. And it was also produced by Vulcan Ironworks. So of course,
Vulcan.
another area where there are elevators. In fact, they just fell an elevator there last week. Yeah.
Wait a minute, fell?
Like they destroyed it.
Oh.
Yeah, because it wasn't viable or whatever anymore. Nobody to take care. In the collection here, this actually all came from Bow Island, or most of it did. We had a family who donated it from their garage just recently, and that's Tony sitting in these photos here.
Oh, cool.
And the chair that we see him resting his feet on is the chair that's sitting right there. And yes,
from where?
Bow Island. Calgary here, Lethbridge here,
Okay.
Medicine Hat here.
Okay, so east of. Okay.
Yeah. Bunch of screens, scales, different things that would have been found within the elevator, used as an elevator. Different. They have different hole sizes for the types. So there's a wheat one, there's a flax one, there's a canola one, and they all just allow, of course, the different sizes to pass through. Yeah. These are just a bunch of like delivery permits and permit books that Tony and I believe the farm he worked on as well. Sometimes farmers were also elevator agents, or like worked here, but your family also ran the farm. The middle thing there too, that in that case is just a Canadian wheat board check writer. So those would have been distributed out to like to Pioneer, to the wheat pool, but it was a way for the Canadian wheat board to track the money being moved around for wheat in Canada.
Okay.
And they all had their own individual ID and everything. John Berger, who worked in this particular elevator, and he's also still alive, and I saw him a couple days ago. Your value in bushels, values in pounds.
Oh, gosh.
Like, yeah, it's just. And those were like every agent and elevator, and even
Good
farmer
Lord.
probably had one of these.
I need a magnifying glass to read that.
Well,
This is just some information about a few tragedies
Tragedies.
that has occurred, particularly in Hussar, which seems to be an epicenter of things occurring.
so safety wasn't big in Hussar.
Yeah,
Fell down a 60-foot elevator.
yeah. And it's about 120 feet to the top of an elevator, so that's about halfway.
About
And I
halfway
think
down.
I think he fell from he was in a man lift,
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So he didn't
I
even
think
fall
so.
onto grain pot.
No, I think he fell. CPR locomotive belt does run. I could ring it for you if
No,
you'd
that's
like.
okay.
Yeah.
No?
Was it going to be loud?
Oh, it rings so loud.
That's
No.
So
yeah.
are these the same shakers really that's over there?
Yes.
Just
One of them has a motor, it's just another one that was donated. I guess I should mention this thing in the middle here is a grain mill, grain to flour.
Okay.
Yeah. Ran by 2 horses, so there would have been a horse on each side, and they would have walked around in a circle.
And the stone.
Yeah, and the stone is actually a Foothills erratic stone, so the same granite as the one at the Okotoks, Big Rock Okotoks erratic.
So it's a grist mill basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's another thing that's cool to point out is, of course, grain being combustive, they had a wooden cog and a metal cog to prevent any
That's friction.
John.
Sure.
Is a fellow out of Saskatchewan in 1980 run an elevator. So it's kind of like where you get to see everything you've seen. You kind of get to see the action
in
of it,
action.
And it kind of ties everything.
Somebody that actually
Sure.
knows what they're doing. So it's called the wheat pool. That's just, it's like a co-op, I guess, pulling all the wheat together from the multiple farmers that are
Correct,
around, pull it together, pool it together.
Yeah, and that was the Alberta Wheat Pool, which would be your green buildings.
Okay.
And then there was the Pioneer, which was another company like the Wheat Pool, but it wasn't the Wheat Pool, it was the Pioneer.
Okay.
And then there was the Independent Grain Company, and then United Grain Growers. So these were all
They're all companies.
companies that would buy and sell grain, and they would offer different, like a farmer could go to all three and get a different price for his grain at all three different
Depending on
elevators.
what they
Yeah.
needed or
Yeah.
what. Did you find this bone somewhere around here?
That is a horse bone. Came from the Burger Farm.
That's a
John
horse
Burger, yeah.
bone?
That's
It's a Clydesdale
workhorse.
bone.
Huh, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, because that's huge.
Yeah.
But it's there as an example of the size of the horses that worked in our fields when we were still using horse
Still
and
using
horse and plow.
yeah.
Wow. Good to get that.
So this is the second building she was talking about that has the annex or whatever. That has 6 additional bins in it.
Oh, yeah.
That was the main elevator right there. Or grain storage.
Ah, cool.
Pretty cool. Pretty interesting. Now we know what these buildings are.
So we just had a little bit of snack after doing the grain elevators, and just wanted to sit down and summarize what we thought of it. And I was actually pretty impressed.
Always wanted to go inside one.
I mean, it was well worth it. It's a Harvest Host location, so if you don't know what Harvest Host is, it's a membership club, small fee annually, and you get to stay at, what's really focused, I think, at wineries.
Well, it's wineries, farms, distilleries, breweries, small business
A brake shop
owners.
in one case that
Yep,
we stayed
brake shop
at.
that we stayed at
We
at
got
one
our
time.
oil changed while we were there on the motorhome.
So it's supporting small businesses.
Yeah, and so it's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, they're right off the interstate, and we just swing in and we stay there for the evening. We partake of whatever that business offers, whether it's wine or whether it's beer or liquor, or in this case, a grain elevator. So we went in and did the tour and donated to the grain elevator Discovery
Center.
and
Yeah.
and it was great.
Yeah.
We always wanted to go inside one. Every time we pass one of those buildings, we have this big rectangular structure, and we're like, what kind of building is that? What is it? What was that used
What's
for?
it look inside? What's
It's
it
not
look
a,
like?
yeah, it's not a tobacco barn. What is it? And here it's a grain elevator.
And the shout out to Catherine.
Yeah, Catherine did
A great job on this tour.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed her lessons
and her passion.
and her passion.
He really has a
Yeah.
passion for the grain elevator itself and the grain industry.
The Discovery Center, the Grain Elevator Discovery Center, stays very busy all year round, it appears. They have a Facebook page and a website.
Which
That-
we'll put in the description. When we type that in, it'll be in the description, and you can go to it and check it out.
Yeah. It was very exciting. If you ever catch yourself with the opportunity to go to one,
Whether it's that one or
or another one, check
Very
it out.
interesting interiors, how they
Yeah.
construct the walls, and all the mechanisms that were utilized and run by one person.
One person. The
Ran that-
operation.
Yeah, ran that whole thing with 20-some grain compartments, and it's all manually manipulated to pour the grain into the right one. It was pretty incredible.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So anyway,
Early industrial ingenuity. It was
Yeah,
pretty
for
cool.
sure.
So anyway, we'll put all that stuff in the description, and hope that you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks for joining us. And if you get a chance, like and subscribe the video and ring the bell. That'll give you notifications in the future of when we send additional stuff in. Otherwise, I think we're pretty much done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
think so?
All right.
All right. Catch you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.